Central Bureau of Investigation has ordered the lie detector test on 7 people allegedly involved in the Arjikar rape and murder case. Well, the test was ordered after the accused Sanjay Roy consented to the test via his lawyer. Ex-principal Sandeep Ghosh, 3 intern doctors who were allegedly with the victim and had dinner with her before her death will also go through it. A civic volunteer as well as a housekeeping staff member are also being subjected to this test. The polygraph test will be administered by a team of polygraph specialists from Central Forensic Science Laboratory, specially flown in from Delhi to Kolkata to conduct the test. And the test involves monitors being fit onto the participants and their bodies. However, what's important for us to take note of are the recent statements made by the accused Sanjay Roy, who allegedly not only cried while consenting to the test, but also hoped for it to help him prove his innocence in the case, stating that he was being framed. This claim by Roy comes after CCTV footage from the case showed him entering the seminar hall. The question that this leads us to ask is whether the accused is trying to delay the case through tactics, perhaps the same old strategy as adopted by rape accused in the past as well in rape cases across. And this has delayed justice for the victims in the past as well. The question that also props is, how do we ensure that justice is not delayed in a case like this? Will this be a repeat of what happened in 2012 with the Nirbhaya case? How do we ensure that justice is delayed in previous cases, rape cases, is not repeated here in the Arjikar rape and murder case as well? We'll debate about this with our guests. Joining us on the show is Mr. A.P. Singh, former CBI director. Also with us is Dr. P.S.V. Rao, consultant surgeon, Manipal Hospital, Bangalore. N.S. Napinai, senior advocate, Supreme Court, also joins us on the show. Leher Sethi, women activist, also with us on the broadcast to talk more about this. Mr. Singh, I'll begin with you, sir.
Yeah.
Well, sir, the problem here that, I as a citizen and as a journalist would have is that, you can make a lot of halla gulla about what's happening here. You can politicize this matter. We can discuss all the details of the polygraph. We can discuss all what happened before and after. But the fact of the matter is that, the delay in justice equivalent to denying and extending upon, the morbid situation that the stakeholders here, especially the relatives and the family, go through in every of these rape cases. There hasn't been a single example in our country where a case like this has been expedited so swiftly and speedily that it becomes a deterrent for people to commit such a heinous crime in the future. Are we standing at the same precipice even after 12 years of the Nirbhaya rape and murder case which happened 12 years ago? Or do you think has anything changed or will change after this?
Actually, if you look at it, it's not the police investigation that takes time. In this case, I've earlier also said, you could give a timeline of say 3 months if CBI really acts fast. But a more likely timeline is 6 months because it takes time to get the forensic reports, to get the PM examined again by a committee of experts, and collecting all the forensic evidence, DNA tests, all these things, they take a bit of time. So I would say about 6, if CBI really puts the entire team together and focuses only on this case, then I think you can get a charge sheet within 6 months. But the problem is after that, problem is in the courts. And I hope that the High Court or the Supreme Court will fast track this case and set up a special court which will only be doing this case, and so the trial can be expedited, and that is the main thing, because even after trial there are so many appeals and counter appeals. In fact, you were talking about the Nirbhaya case, but even a more gruesome case is the Nithari case, where the guy has been sentenced to death I don't know how many times, and now I've also lost count, and he's still there. He's still very much around. And this case, I think, took place about, you're talking about 12 years. This took place, I think, about 20 years ago. And he has been sentenced to death in innumerable instances. He murdered so many women, and he was a cannibal. He actually cooked them and ate them. And he is still there. He's still in court. So you cannot I don't think it is the CBI to blame there, because the sentences have happened.
No, sir. So it's not the CBI that we are blaming. NS
Yeah.
Nippanai, do you think that the justice system is to be blamed for this? Do you think there are reforms, due here? And how many people will have to lose their life? How many people will have to go through this anguish of not being able to seek justice? I understand the scale of the justice system. I understand the challenges also. This is something that, of course, the lawmakers themselves understand. It's a big country. Administration is, a little difficult. But let's not even get into that. We know countries, because of their density of population, continue to have a robust justice system regardless of the challenges that they face. Why haven't we not been able to streamline something so basic even after 75 years of independence?
We are dealing with different kinds of legal enforcement mechanisms here. So what we really need to do is to see how best we can make it process driven. I'm not trying to preach to the law enforcement agencies here. I'm just pointing out something that usually works when you're talking in terms of scale. When we talk about law, what we expect from law is certainty, uniformity in its application, certainty in terms of outcomes, and the trust factor which the standard methodologies in terms of implementing a legal process bring into play. So one possibility, and this is something that corporates implement, and there is nothing wrong with including the corporate process into law enforcement. And the first step for that may be to have standard procedures, which police do have. SOPs are part of their everyday processes. So you have standard procedures. Second step is to ensure that the standard procedures are followed. So you have a law, you have standard procedures, and police are also trained to follow those standard procedures. The difficulty comes when this is violated. The issues arise when standard procedures are not adapted or not applied uniformly. That's why I went a step back to explain about how law functions, to explain how the law enforcement mechanism is also expected to function. We need certainty and uniformity.
Leher Sethi, women activist, also with us on the program. Leher, what has been your judgment and assessment of this case? I'm sure, some of the same points, finer points that we all continue to observe when it comes to rape and murder, still continue to languish. There could be politicization between center and states, but that is not going to help anyone. It's not going to help the reform. It's not going to help, the speedy expedition of this case. It is something which perhaps will be forgotten in a few months or weeks from now.
Exactly. I was there protesting 12 years back during the Nirbhaya rape and murder case as well. And 12 years later, I feel like I'm exactly at the same place where I was. In fact, I feel more disheartened. I feel more angry and anguished now because I feel like nothing has changed. I mean, the Nirbhaya case was one of those cases that reached an international, infamosity that was unprecedented. And despite that, and despite fast tracking it, like, the gentleman in the beginning spoke about fast track courts, etc. Despite it having gone through fast track courts, it took 6 years for the convicts to finally be, hanged. So, and, I remember a couple of years back, I was doing some research on how many of the convicts have actually been hanged in cases where the judgment of capital punishment has been given. And it is extremely poor. It's like some 4 or 5 cases in which it has actually happened. So what's the point of that? Secondly, I mean, we have all these protests happening, and I do feel a certain amount of politicization in this particular case because there have been innumerous such cases in the past few years that we have heard about. It was the Hathras case in which the police burnt the body of the victim. We have the Bilkis Bano case in which the convicts were released because the state government let them out. We have Asaram and Ram Rahim out on parole every other day. We have Mr. Brijbhushan Sharan Singh, who's roaming around building houses in central Delhi, when the Delhi police has given in writing to the court that they have found proof against him. So we do encourage a culture of rape, of violence against women. In this particular case, with this particular gentleman, who is the prime accused in this case, it is shown that, he has a violence of marital abuse and rape against him, and he is roaming around. He's in fact a volunteer at a hospital, a police volunteer. So I feel that the mentality needs to change. It is very simple to say law enforcement needs to change, but law enforcement officials are also people of the same society that we all belong to. And there was an article that I read about the Google searches about the victim, people searching for rape videos of the victim and pictures of the victim and the crime actually happening. I mean, that's disgusting. What kind of a society are we living in, and how are we going to change this? It's a very serious thing that I think all of us need to think about.
It's a very serious thing that all of us need to think about. Dr. Rao, we've been down this road. It's just that a case gets so big that it's grabbing all the national highlights and headlines, and therefore it becomes necessary to form a huddle and reconstruct whatever happened 12 years ago with Nirbhaya. But the fact of the matter is that likely to change anything? Is public pressure in a democracy becoming ineffective?
Good evening, Vinay, all panelists and viewers. I really hope that doesn't happen, because democracy is about public pressure, public choices. And I fully agree that we as a society needs to change. Once we are concerned about women's rights, women's safety, we can then truly put public pressure on our lawmakers, the law enforcement agencies, to do the job. And the courts also need to come under pressure to quickly adjust these cases to arrange a quick judgment. Now, what I find is that let's see each of these agencies, the lawmakers. Now, we have a state of affairs where known criminals still get elected, known terrorists get elected to become lawmakers. So if you are going to have lawmakers becoming lawmakers, then there is a problem. You have a rule which says that if you have been convicted, then you can't stand for elections. But the conviction doesn't occur, and the person continues to get elected. Now, if you are going to have terrorists and criminals getting elected, what is the morale of the law enforcement agencies? Even if I have an honest police officer and he comes under, he gets pushed around into some inconspicuous posting, and someone known is put as a police chief, you are going to have the kind of police that is going on now in Calcutta and West Bengal. I have said this many times before, I am saying it again. In 1970s, Calcutta was the safest place for women. I never saw such safety for women as I had seen in Calcutta in the 1970s. What has changed? A lot has changed since then. The political parties who are in control have been permitting lawlessness. And this is not only the present political party, but the previous political parties. Calcutta is deteriorated terribly, and there is a lot of lawlessness going on. And if the people who are at the helm of affairs are trying to suppress and destroy the evidence so that their own people are protected, this is not the only case. So many cases are there now in West Bengal where this is happening. This is not
only happening in West Bengal. This is happening in other parts of the country as well. So, there were simultaneous rapes in Uttar Pradesh, in Uttarakhand as well as Jharkhand. People are not talking about that. I think, which government is taking care of what kind of a case related to rape and murder is not important over here. Leher wants to say something. Leher, come in now.
Yes, but there are so many cases.
Leher, 1 second, sir. 1 second, sir. Leher.
It has happened in many other states.
All right, sir. 1 second. Leher.
Yeah. What I want to say is that Vineet, another problem that happens, okay, and it is across governments, it is across, all of these people. One of the things that they keep talking about and why they take up cases is because, they feel that for some reason or somehow this has affected the image of the state, the image of the country. That should not be our concern. Our primary and main concern should be that the women of our country feel safe. And, there is one thing that I talk about all the time, and that is marital rape. Why is marital rape decriminalized in India? We're the only democracy where that is so. Why? Does that not promote a culture of rape? Without naming the gentleman, a former law enforcement officer, somebody who served with the CBI, once wrote that, if a man cannot have sex with his own wife without her consent, then what's the point of getting married? What is our attitude towards women in this country?
It's patriarchy.
And it is extremely patriarchal, and we have to smash that patriarchy in order for this to change. Otherwise, these rapes will continue. And then, in this particular case, the woman is dead. She has died, and because of that, you have a body, which is why there is all this outrage. What if the woman had, survived? And what if she hadn't wanted to go to court? What if she hadn't wanted to, because there is so much shame associated with rape for the victims. And that is another thing that we need to change in our country. The way that we treat, zindagi barbad ho gayi, zindagi khatam ho gayi. So this needs to change. And I feel that our law enforcement also comes from the same society that we all belong to. Until we don't change our attitude towards women in our society, nothing is going to change. I mean, we're going to keep on having these discussions. People will move on. Another 3 months, we'll probably be talking about this case. Then it'll go to court and we'll forget about it. Till another rape case happens, which is similar, where there's a body that, we will all outrage about. So, I see no point. This is the first debate that I've come on. I've been approached a few times in a very long time because I don't see a point in even talking about it anymore.
No, I think, Leher, it's important for people like you to continue talking about it and expressing yourself. Mr. Singh, Leher has raised a very important point that, it's patriarchy, it's the attitude, it's the grassroots level issue which needs to be addressed here. Perhaps we are all playing with the peripheral, we are all playing with or debating over the superficial. What the ground reality is something that needs to be fixed here.
Okay, let me tell you, number one, that this case, we are talking about this particular case. So I'll confine myself to this case. That this is a murder and a rape case, and this is professionally investigated. Now, the media and other political parties may try to make this into something different, but as far as the CBI is concerned, it's purely a professional investigation, and I don't think that they will have any problem in getting the accused convicted, getting them filing a charge sheet, collecting all the evidence, and getting them convicted. Now, outside there may be a lot of chorus about all what you're talking about, but I'm just sticking to the basics. And as I just mentioned before, that was also women. Those girls who were killed in that Nithari murder were all women. But because they were from poor families, nobody's making a noise. The guy has been sentenced to death so many times, and it's 20 years, and he's still hanging around. So I'm also puzzled by the justice system. That why aren't we being able to give justice? And that's one example I'm putting right in front of you. And I can assure you that in this case, the CBI would have done its job. The next step is to fast track it in courts. It took 7 years in this Bhaya case. Let's see if we can do it in 1 or 2 years.
But sir, you're absolutely right. The CBI does its job, but the fact and the problem here is, and it is a problem which has been observed in a number of cases, is that the first responders are always the local law enforcement agents, the police. Are they sensitized? Are they competitive enough to handle such cases?
You are absolutely correct there. That in conventional crimes, unfortunately, the CBI always comes in later because it only comes when the High Courts or the Supreme Court order the investigation, and by that time, a week, a month, sometimes 6 months have passed. So we are never the first responders, and that is one requirement that the police. Yes, I absolutely agree with you. The local police needs to be professionalized. It needs to be sensitized. Now, in the new laws, they've said that in every crime case, the forensics must take place first, which is a very good step. That means there'll be a lot of forensic investigations now, and not the earlier system of whatever the police used to do.
Right, sir.
So
And yeah, you're absolutely right, sir. And NS Nipana, this is actually like deja vu. I remember hosting similar shows when Nirbhaya happened, and I feel that I'm back in time. At that point in time, also we were discussing the sensitivity that should be shared, the kind of responses that should be elicited by policemen, when there's a case as sensitive as this. Victim blaming is something that should not happen. It continues to happen. So in effect, in a sense, and cutting a long story short, nothing has changed in a decade and a half.
Yeah, but then we just have to understand that the law is very clear that it doesn't matter what the victim did, etc. A rape is a rape. And there are consequences to such violations. So we need to ensure, these are just, I fully, totally understand where all the other speakers come from, and sometimes the pointlessness of various actions that are being taken. But can we really stop those actions? Can we not continue to try to ensure awareness, create sensitization, ensure that, I always believe, we normally keep talking about Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao. My standard line whenever I take training sessions is Beta Padhao, Beta Bachao, because you please teach your sons what the consequences of their actions will be, that they can be prosecuted, they can be punished, they can be put in jail, and they can lose their future. Maybe if they understand the consequences, because rape is very nuanced. It can be a hate crime, it can be various different kinds of reasons behind that crime. But predominantly, maybe we can use law as a deterrence if they understand the consequences that will ensue. And for that, we need effective prosecutions and enforcement.
All right, ma'am.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.